Oh, it's like a
Welcome into the Recipe Podcast, Celebrity Secrets to a Successful Life. I'm your host, Chef Charles Carroll. What a great day, what a great show we have for you today. This is our Gourmet Club Live show where we get some guys, I guess they're pretty jacked up for the holidays. I'm not quite sure, but they're acting up. So Phil Phoenix, our audio engineer, say hey, Phil.
Hey.
And the Bobbit is out doing things with her dad for his birthday, but we do have the Venus flytrap. Say hey, Venus.
What's up?
Yeah, and then we also have a guest in our house, and
she's like, what?
Yeah.
I just met him.
Yeah, so we have a guest, Mr. Dick Reno.
Hey, here I am.
Yeah, how you
Hi, Mr. Dick.
Yeah.
Hey, hello, Christian. I mean, Venus.
You doing all right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. I'm doing pretty
Yeah.
good. Oh, we're talking to me, not you.
So we have a special guest also in-house, Chef Monica Pope. Monica, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize in advance for these guys that are around the table.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're around. But real pleasure to have you in-house. But I want to do quick housekeeping here and thank our sponsors before we get too started here. First of all, we have Dunkin' Coffee. We're enjoying that coffee right now. Dunkin' is, if you want a great cup of coffee, go ahead and order some of that Dunkin' Coffee. DunkinCoffee.com. That's DUNCAN. Also, a school of Scoffia School of Culinary Arts. Fantastic culinary education you can get there. Also online is a great opportunity there for you. And American Culinary Federation, you need to be a member. If you're in our business, you need to be a member of American Culinary Federation. Texas Beef Council, they love chefs. That's why we love them. And Aceway Incorporated, who will basically clean anything you want, including office buildings and kitchens, and that's why we love them, because they keep our place awful clean. So thank you, guys, and without the great sponsors, we wouldn't have the listeners. And by the way, guys, I think I told you this, but yesterday we hit number 18 on iTunes.
All right.
Yeah, pretty cool, right? So thank you, listeners. You're the smartest people on the planet for doing that, and today is going to be another great show because we have Monica Pope. So, Monica, you have a great history here in Houston. Are you a Houstonian?
I am.
Yeah. So, born and raised.
Not born.
Okay.
Got here as fast as I could.
Yeah.
And then raised.
Okay. Yeah. Super cool. So, you are from Germany, right? You were born in Germany.
My dad was in the service for a couple of years.
Okay.
So I was born over there with my brother.
Okay. So you were here. You grew up in Houston.
Yeah, this is the only home I've known, and
so cool. So
high school. People want to know where I went to high school.
Yeah. Where did you go to high school?
Memorial.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Fun in '81.
All right. So what got you into cooking? What was your inspiration? Was it your mom, your grandmom, your dad, or something right in there?
A combination of all of those. My mother's mother was from Kansas, and her parents were wheat farmers and Czech, and we would get this box. My mom would get this box around her birthday in October, and then for the holidays, and weed out all the amazing, kolaches and makovka and shishki and stuff. And
Wow.
I just was concerned that I was a swimmer. I was underwater all of my childhood, and in my teens, I just could see how important this was to my mom in particular, but my family. And I was concerned about it being passed on or not being passed on. So I went to work with my grandmother 2 summers before college to learn her family food traditions.
Wow. So you went there with the idea to learn.
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I say to hear stories. There weren't a whole lot of stories going on, but I got a couple good stories about who we were, and all the people in my family, and things that happened, and then was learning to make all this amazing stuff, and but it was at a time too when somebody asked me what I was going to do, and I said at 17 I was going to open a restaurant and change the way Houston eats. So I had already made the decision that it wasn't going to be through Czech baked goods, but and I felt like the restaurant. I felt like the restaurant was the right box, if you will, or medium for me to make this change. So.
So your first restaurant job was?
Cafe Annie.
Cafe Annie.
82. After my first year of college, I came back. Actually, I talked to them before, like, spring break.
With Robert, yeah?
Yeah, all of the old guard. I walked in having been handed an application from David's Cookies, or was it Neil's? I think it was David's Cookies. Do you go that far back? I was just appalled at being handed an application to scoop ice cream. I was already a snot, So I went down to Cafe Annie and I walked in. Of course, there's the whole crew sitting in the banquettes talking about the next shift, I guess. And I said I was looking for a job for the summer, and they're like, oh. I said, I'll do anything. And they said, oh, whatever, whoever gets here first is going to get the job. And I think there was some, 3 people in line or whatever. I came back when I was out of school, and I got the job, and I started what I don't even know what you call it, garde manger or not, and worked with all the old, Emmett Fox and Jeannie Khalil, and San was there before this was it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. I know Robert is a dear friend of mine and ours, and he had a head chef there that pretty much ran the place, and then he went and opened his own place in Carolina, I think. I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
Well, Emmett went to Austin he opened 3 or 4 restaurants there. When I was there, it was Paul who worked at the Four Seasons and Cafe Annie, and then Jeff, I think it's Conway. Jeff and Emmett went to CIA, but San was married to Jeannie, but he was running the Rio Ranch at some point. But he was with me at Cafe Annie. But I don't know who chefed it, other than all these guys. I mean, he's had
Barry. Does that ring a bell? Barry. Anyway.
I mean, he's had.
Was
it Elliot forever and Greg? Is it Elliot? It's Elliot. He's had every event.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So so you were at Cafe Annie for how long?
3 months.
3 months.
Actually, yeah, because
went back to school.
Well, I went to Spain for, I guess, August, but.
Okay, and so from Cafe Annie, what was your next restaurant kitchen?
It was called Karen's Fine Foods. There were 2 Karens and Marion Tyndall. Marion I was there on and off for the rest of my college pre-Europe existence. Well, is that not really true? Literally off and on for about a decade. Marion Tyndall took it over and it became bistro cuisine. But that's really where I learned everything. We did everything. We made every sauce, breads. Jacques Pepin taught me how to peel an asparagus spear. He was mad at me because I didn't know. I was like 19 or something. All the famous chefs came through there. They kind of, it's that old school, whatchamacallit, what is it called, guys? Come on.
Old school guard.
I'm trying to think of the cooking school. Laverle Daly. But they all came through, Boujali and Pepin and all these great cooks, and we would do all these recipes. We'd make everything. They all had background in different specialties and stuff. But so I did that on and off. But I was in school in Baltimore, so I worked there in a hotel, kind of a schizophrenic yard beer. What do you call it? Yard bar thing.
Yeah.
And then fine dining, and then I went off to Europe. And
Wow. So what would you think was your biggest, other than your family, who do you think your biggest inspiration food-wise?
I mean, first and foremost, I think my first cookbooks, Betty Crocker International Cookbook, Housekeeping Cookbook, Alice Waters, and then really bistro cuisine, Marion Tyndall, in terms of being here in Houston and being connected with all these amazing chefs all over the world. I went to cooking school in London for a very brief time, the last semester of this 3-semester course. But again, it was just at this crazy, 30 years ago, where London, which is very similar to Houston, I felt like, not a lot of cred when it came to cooking, and just totally ethnically diverse and just crazy. And but they were it was an amazing experience, food and wine. I mean, 30 years ago, getting to taste 15 wines from places that are just now, coming to the U.S. That education, and then I worked in a little place in Greece. It was just, I don't know. I just look back, and I guess that's where I found sort of what I have come to do. My food, which my food is everybody else's food.
Sure.
But this sort of global comfort food with local ingredients. I saw it happen in Greece with the German chef and the Greek lawyer, and and it all comes together. But you're using local ingredients, and so.
Yeah. So, Christian, you have any you wanted to add to that?
No, I'm just thinking about like in that generation of people who were cooking like the mid '90s. A lot of those folks that
mid '80s.
Mid '80s, yeah. But I'm saying you were out in Europe by the '90s, right?
I was in Europe late '80s.
Yeah. So if you think
I was
about,
in San Francisco late '80s.
right, so it's kind of like a really important turning point in terms of food in the U.S. in the big cities, in my opinion, because for the most part, everything was even New York places felt somewhat local. I mean, you had reviews from Gail Green from the 60s and 70s where it's like, this is the best new French restaurant, whereas like we'll talk about Houston that way now almost. It's like, what do you want to call a French restaurant? So from that perspective, I feel like you kicked around with the right people because I think that group of chefs are the ones that have had the best staying power.
Right.
It's not trendy at all. Like they're, just like when you heard Del Grande talk, I mean, like, that makes great sense that guy's still kicking ass. But I don't think there's enough people that know. Because think about all the transplants that are in Houston now. They're moving from some other places.
Yeah.
So they don't understand any part of that. They might not ever stop and think, hey, I should go check out Tony's, or I should go check out DeMarco, or something like that. Right? Because they're like, what's the next new thing? But then by the time you go to the next new thing being in Houston, you're like, oh, they're already closing down? Like, seriously, like that place, a Key, I told you, it's true. That place, a Key, I ended up going like 5 times. The last time I went, which was like 2 weeks ago, on Westheimer, really good flavors, amazing, a lot of Philippine influence.
But you know why it closed.
Well, yes, I do. And that's just it. But you stop and think about, put that aside and say, okay, but what about the people that are working here making this food?
Yeah.
And that food was awesome. And I was sitting on
Which place was this, Christian?
A Key.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been there once. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So we were sitting there, and it's funny because and I'm like, oh, damn, that's the last of that wine by the glass. And I was like, I looked over at who I was with. I was like, this place is going to fold. The next day, it came out in the Houston Press. They're done at the end of the month. I was like, well, that sucks because they had good service. They had good drinks. They had a very cool, tight menu. And they were doing something different. And for the most part, most Houstonians barely got a shot to even go check it out, or didn't want to
Yeah, a lot of people put their foot down. So.
Yeah, and I get that as well. Like I get both sides of it, but it's like you also have to take a closer look and say, does this concept transcend who it might have come from? You know what I mean? Like, am I going to support this? Because there's still people working in it that need to make a living, So that's all I'm saying. It's like, did everybody stop watching CBS because the guy got in trouble for harassment? You didn't boycott that, right?
Not yet.
Did everybody not watch football?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because so-and-so player hit his girlfriend or whatever. Yeah. At some point it's like, okay, this is what you believe in, that's great. But let's also look at who else suffers from the action of maybe one person.
The world has changed for sure. And it's crazy how with the media and with Twitter and Facebook and everything else, it seems like a drop of a hat. There's something else. There's another boot drop. And but anyway, I don't want to go down a political hole right now.
Here we are.
Slippery.
The leader of our country and such. But Monica, for sure. I mean, what do you think about the food scene today? Compared to, because you grew up in the heyday when, and now, you've seen it all. You've seen it all. unfold in front of you. You were a big part of it. What do you think about it? Where it was when in the '80s and where it is today?
Just remembering Bear Paredes started and Chili's and Chafalaya. You know, I grew up with all that, the kind of the big family Houston restaurant, companies doing some, fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was big. It was flavorful. It was, it was fun. And I had the opportunity to travel with my parents in New York. They were art collectors, so I got to go out in New York 40-ish years ago, and then in Houston, because they were art collectors again, we could go gallery hop and eat and stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. I've seen, when I said I was going to open a restaurant and change the way Houston eats, I didn't really understand what change needed to happen, or just something, whether it was myself or the scene. But
what a profound statement, by the way, by a 17-year-old. I mean,
I know, it's crazy. I was sitting in the McDonald's, which I'd never done before. Gone through the fence at Memorial High School, and was just sitting with a friend who was eating, and she asked me, and she's like, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Who said that?"
Yeah.
Like a neon fast food joint. I'm like, what the fuck? What, me? Really?
Yeah. That's cool.
But I was kind of kid I was, of just taking on the world and wanting to change it and recycle it, if nothing else. Yeah, it's crazy, because I've spent, a quarter of a century just trying to figure out what that meant and looked like, and then you wake up one day and you're like, everybody's pointing, saying, "You did it, you did it, you did it." And you're like, "Gee, what did I do?" It's really fun. It was really fun to watch, people. I'm going to say his name again. I think Brian Caswell was the first one to come back to town that I actually connected with, and he really appreciated. He had been all over the world, and he really appreciated what I was doing. Some guys would come to the farmers market that I had. I just saw Dylan Murray, Brian and Justin, and all these people would come to the market, and I had stepped into this in '92, this weird cultish thing with Chefs Collaborative, and which is sort of like the slow food of America. But these guys started to, Ryan Pera, Chris Shepard, they started to go, well, maybe we can step into this kind of gay thing. Maybe it's real. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't mean we're gay, just because she's gay. But so they all. Brian actually came up to me. He said, "Hey, you know what I'm doing? I'm going to do a local market tasting menu, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's all I can do, but I'm going to do it." I was like, I didn't even realize somebody was thinking what a huge thing that was for me to do a local market tasting menu at Tafia, and to call it a local market tasting menu. Anyway, it's just things like that you. Now I'm writing the book, so I look back and just kind of go, "Geez, what were you, what were you thinking? What was somebody else thinking? What happened?" So then you see them, them all start to take steps into this sort of local farm to table, whatever that those words didn't exist together, 25 years ago, 40 years ago. But now I'm not so sure that restaurants in general are sustainable. I think we're seeing. I know I stepped out in March of 2016. I know people are. Our latest venture is a bar with a rotating chef in residence, which is kind of funny because most restaurants rotate chefs, right? Or most restaurants rotate in and out. But I just think people's, it's just really, really hard. And I think people's attention spans are stretched, And
don't you also think that Houston sometimes, their ideas that are way ahead of their time for Houston?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like something will happen.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is going to
Yeah.
be big in Houston in 5 years. You guys kind of got out in front of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was reading, I don't know what, just last night, I was reading this, I like this, I guess it's a newsletter, Cook Space Brooklyn, and they have a bunch of stuff just to what we're listening to, what we're reading, what we're seeing, whatever. And it was just on this artist, Hilma Haft Klint, and literally, long story short, she did this body of work that she literally didn't show anybody, and she told her family, "You're not to show this or share it with anybody for 20 years till 20 years after my death."
Wow.
And I everybody's like, "Can you believe that?" And the premise is that she knew the world wasn't ready,
Yeah.
and might be ready 20 years after she died. And then you look at where she was at with, it's just unbelievable. But she had the wherewithal to say, "Yeah, I should just wait until I'm dead."
Wow.
And then a quarter of a century.
Also a profound
I sometimes feel like I should have done that. Hey, I've always been way, way, way ahead of myself and ahead of the curve and ahead of everything else. But in some ways, and then everything old is new again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a lot of people criticized of just sort of like, "Oh yeah, that thing," and it's just like, yeah, that thing. It doesn't barely exist anymore. All these things that we crave and need, and it's just like, yeah, but it's gone. It's gone. How do we get connected with it again?
Think about that for a second. An artist who puts so much of their passion and their philosophy and their skill and everything on canvas, and say you can't show this for 20 years. 20 years later, they can't even experience what the expressions of those who see it 20 years later. So what goes in that person's mind that they go through all that work and they put it aside, and they're not even going to experience what the expressions were or how people enjoyed it. It's a weird thought. It's
thankless, I guess.
Yeah, it's very...
Well, the details of that too, I haven't done enough research, but she was sort of a medium, and she was commissioned by something or somebody, or
gotcha.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so she has all these books and all this. It's crazy what she ended up producing based on whatever she was picking up on. So in some way, let's face it, it's a blip. It's a blip in millennia.
Mm-hmm.
And 20 years later, nobody's going to get it either.
Right.
Very few people, but yeah, no, none of this is about any kind of. I always fight that. There's just no celebrity, no ego, no money, no. It's not about that. I remember another artist, Agnes Martin. At the end of her book, I knew very little bit about her, but it's very, very this whole grid thing, and I knew a guy that was. She was his mentor, and but literally, one of her paintings at the end of her life, she would only do 5'5" canvases because she could actually carry that and stretch them herself. She was 85 or 6 or something, and one of her paintings went for like $4 million. And her friend said she, just burst out crying. Can you believe it? It's not the money. It was that she had spent her entire life trying to paint innocence and happiness, and that sort of, dollar figure or anything that symbolized was she. And I think in her heart she knew she had somehow been able to express that, and many a painting burned. Like she only had so much left. It's a similar thing where she was able to live long enough to kind of be validated.
Mm-hmm.
But it's crazy.
Mm. So you've had a few restaurants.
A few.
Yeah. So what are
Dirty Dozen almost.
what are all the ones? Sophia's the one I've been to.
Yeah. So Quilted Toque was the first, 92, 94.
Yeah.
94 till 2003, I think, was Boulevard Bistro. I had Brasserie 43 in a blip there. I went from Boulevard 3 days later to Tafia, which I had almost for 10 years, not 2003. And then I reconcepted Tafia to Sparrow in 2012. And then interspersed, I had Beaver's Original, and then now we're doing something new.
Well, so
I had B-Bar in there. And then
So I want to hear about what you're doing new, but what do you think is, what was your favorite in that mix, and what was your most passionate one out of all of them? Or
well, the Quilted Toque to Sparrow was all kind of me, trying to change the way Houston eats, and it was all continuous. I didn't miss a day, a beat. I just changed locations. But ultimately, I'm going to say Sparrow because I am still Sparrow. And Sparrow's, when I did that, and that's really the way that I can finish the memoir, which I started a decade ago, called Eating Hope. Sparrows are the symbol of hope and or freedom. And me doing that in 2012, figuring that out, reconcepting, and taking that leap was the right thing, even though 3 or 4 years into it, everything fell apart again, personally and professionally. But it was supposed to. I knew it then.
when was this?
So I reconcept 2012, and then by 2016, various things had happened in those 2 or 3 years, but that was the final hobble in a field in Round Top. The state comptroller had seized all my accounts. My wife left and took all of her kids with her, and mine left. Not for just. It was scary. It's like, I'm going to go over here where I can study geometry. But I knew it was supposed to happen, and I knew I had to let go at that point. And, so again, people go, oh, you got bored, or, oh, another failed restaurant, oh, desperation. That will always stand as my last, effort, but also the realization that I do need to be free, not just clinging with hope, but just like free, liberate yourself.
Yeah.
Realize that this thing that you said when you were 17 to open a restaurant and change the way Houston eats, you've done that. You've done it probably 10 times, and you've affected a lot of change. And now it's time for you to change. You can't avoid that anymore. Whatever relationships, personally or professionally, within that you keep repeating patterns, and doesn't make you a bad person or them a bad person, but how can I've got to stop repeating the patterns that end up being really painful. So it's all been uphill since then.
Well, good on you for that. Yeah.
Yay, cancer.
Yes.
No, that's the icing on the cake. It's awesome. It's supposed to happen,
Well, so how are you with that?
Awesome. I mean, it's ridiculous. So they say with the right breast that is present, present tense stuff, and I am totally in the present tense, which makes total sense because I literally left my commercial space on Travis, which is where I reconcepted to Sparrow. I left in May, moved back into my home where all this stuff had happened. I had for 20 years, the bulk of my career, and I was living outside, next door to it, but outside. And I moved back in because my daughter wanted to move back in because my tenants wanted me to move out, and blah, 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 blah. And I just face all the very present feelings of having done all this work for the last 3 or 4 years, and bam, you get this wake-up call, which was a fluke. I was just caught early, lumpectomy. Wasn't even any. I didn't know, but just the process of dealing with it for the last 3 months is just it's all amazing. And lucky, and all the hard work, everything I've done in my life has quote unquote paid off. And I got the help, and I got the support and the love and the everything from it. The hard part is to accept that, to receive that. People, it was almost too much. It was just like overwhelming. I'd be like, oh my God,
Wow.
there's nothing left for anybody to do to help, or I just can't say yes.
Yeah.
And that's part of where I'm at now, where it's just like you still have to say yes, even though you've gotten through this and everything's worked out, and that's part of the journey of just saying yes to life and love and help and support and care, and just continue to say yes. Somebody texted me last night, and she goes, "Well, is it really money is that how you're best going to be supported?" And I said, "No, I said, no, it's the hardest thing I can do is to just keep it out there and to charge for my services and to transact. I said, I just want to make sure people know I'm still working and that this is how I make my livelihood. And here's a GoFundMe. If you don't have a party that I can do for you, if you don't want to come to a cooking class, it's like throw in $25, whatever. I don't know. It's just, this is going to help me get through. This is going to help me finish the book. This is going to help me de-stress. This is going to help me take care of myself, all these things, But it's just always that question of like, how much more money do you need? Or how much? It's like it's the love and support that we can't suddenly turn off and on and say, oh, I don't need any more things.
Right. So you finished all your treatment for
I'm finished January 8th.
January 8th. Yeah. Well, God bless you.
And it's just radiation. It's radiation. It's they make it really, really amazingly fun. Fun. Even my oncologist said that. She just when I first met her, she was all just kind of like serious, and she didn't know me and everything. And we started talking about stuff, and then she was like smiling at the end, and she goes, "Well, this is going to be fun." And I'm like, and she looked at me. She goes, "I'm sorry." I said, "No, this is going to be fun. Let's do this." And then it turned out to be really fun because I have the best cancer wake-up call.
You're in the right city, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the amount of work that they've done, just things that I did literally in 90 seconds normally would have been a surgical procedure. Literally, like it took 90 seconds. And
wow.
That's Houston, Texas,
Yeah.
So it's been fun. I hate to say it's been wonderful to join the tribe,
Yeah.
male and female, just a lot of stories out there.
So tell us about Dick. You're awful quiet over there. You have anything you want to jump in on here?
Dick's in tears over there. It's so cute.
I was listening.
Yeah.
It's been very
pretty cool,
informative.
yeah.
It's been pretty cool.
Yeah. So tell us about this new venture.
It's called. Did you just get here? Or you're not from here?
I've been living abroad for like 7 years. I've been back for a year now.
You're from here, though.
Yes.
So do you remember Beaver's Original off of Decatur, 6th Ward?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I might have been there maybe once. I had to work.
If you don't remember,
I had to work all the time, so I couldn't go to places.
Well, we got divorced from Beaver's, two partners that went off and did Beaver's Westheimer, and we've reconcepted. It's now called the Decatur. Sorry, there was another name in there that got a little controversial. Seems to follow me wherever I go.
That original Beavers was JJ involved in that too?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I first moved here in 07, and the first place I ate was Max's.
Yeah.
Because I was the wine director for that group.
Oh, cool.
So I was tasting room in Max's.
That's where I know you from.
Yeah, because
probably.
you came and did some stuff over at the Uptown, but that was like 11 years ago.
Yeah, a long time.
But from there, Jonathan was at Max's, and then he moved on, and DiMaggio came, but he went over to the Beaver. And I thought that Beaver's, you said earlier, it's like restaurants aren't sustainable. It's like, I was at Beaver's last year, and I was like, thank God this place is still here.
Right.
That's a big testament. I mean, truly, like, because it's not an amazing location. Well, it's better, much better now. There was nothing around it before.
Yeah,
okay? Right. It was something that nobody, and it was like, it had the same concept, the same vein or thought process through the drink menu all the way to the food, all the way to the timing when they were open, and the layout. It was just very well conceived, something probably difficult to duplicate. I kind of was upset when they went and opened in Westheimer because that space is so different and that area is different as well. Yeah, it's like
Trump went off and did his own beaver.
Right. You know,
I mean,
exactly.
That's what it is.
Right.
And
but the original never really changed. Like Cheddar Mill, you guys took Cheddar Mill, who was there for a long time with the bartender, and we used to just go see him because it was like it was that good. It was that quality.
No, they all came through, and that's the premise. You know, the whole bad divorce thing happened, and it was very painful for everybody involved. But we're trying to bring that back, that bar incubator thing that we had, and now with the kitchen, we didn't, JJ took the helm and Dusty was there the entire time, and they held on strong with that, but now we're having both be incubators, the kitchen and the bar. So it's called the Decatur, and it is a chef in residence program and a bar, and I think it should be open soon.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good, that's a good spot.
So what's the location?
I'm gonna take a guess. I think I get confused because I have the place next door. 23. I think it's 2315 Decatur.
Okay.
2310.
But that's like with the corner of you can call it
It's
continuation of
Sawyer.
Sawyer, right?
Sawyer
Washington
and
Sawyer.
Yeah, Washington and Sawyer, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you say that you're going to have guest chefs there?
Yeah. So our first chef is Chef Evelyn Garcia, who actually was in New York for about 10 years, and she's from here. She went to the CIA, and her bent is Southeast Asian, and so she's our first guinea pig. Very wonderful, sweet, talented person. So we get to make all of our mistakes with her.
And how long was she?
She'll get, at this rate, she'll probably get 4 or 5 months. It was going to be about 3-month stints, with a month in between to do different things, pop-ups, and on the weekends, Sundays, Mondays. She actually took Tuesday, so she's doing Tuesday through Sunday, but ideally 3 or 4 months, and then we have a line out the door for the next ones. Yeah, people are really. I think people are just really interested. Let's face it, I would have loved to have just had a restaurant for 3 months and been really successful.
So my question would be
having to maintain it for like the next 10 years, or
I guess my question would be how are you getting these people? Because how can people stop what they're doing for 5 months and do that and then go back, hopefully have a living or a job somewhere?
Well, think about it. So Evelyn pops up at Axelrad and she does catering and stuff. The next person has a food truck,
okay,
but wants to have bricks and sticks, a real restaurant with walls. Evelyn just wants a restaurant with plate, an actual plate. And we give them a 30-seat restaurant, and the full use of a kitchen, a commercial kitchen. So there are people that can take a, sabbatical, leave of absence. I mean, I think a lot of chefs nowadays, restaurateurs, would say, go for it. That's the way it used to be, where it's like, oh my God, if you have this chance to go to do a stage in, Spain, go for it. You know what I mean? Come back and...
Yeah.
So, and these are people that are up and coming chefs.
Gotcha.
Could be somebody's sous chef, could be just some unknown guy who, that just has a thing. Could be somebody with a food truck who actually wants to do, food in a different environment. It's really hard. I did the market for so many years, and food trucks now, and again, everybody wants, the grass is greener, but it's also much more expensive.
So from that perspective, are you planning, because you haven't done it yet, but are you planning to have, like, let's say you have young chefs or chefs, obviously some chefs who haven't even been part of a business plan or had to look at profitability or had a price. I mean, you can't assume they've studied it. There's probably going to be a component where maybe you'll have to step in, your group will have to step in and say, okay, this is how we're going to price and this is why. Just, how does that
that's
conversation
Yeah,
happen?
sorry. That's the other part is our partners. Some of our partners are with Nextseed, and one of our partners is a real estate guy, and then you've got me that's had restaurants forever, and so we can, we support them in any way we can, business-wise, cost-wise, just maintenance of, like friggin' bathrooms and, grease traps. And then investor platform, that'll be set up for them.
Wow.
So, it's a little bit of a kind of a coddling thing, but the reality is it's still so hard. The deals are hard. I've had, I don't know however many restaurants, however many deals. The only reason I'm still here is because I've had a few bank loans and SBA loans. That's a whole nother story. But I never had really investors, I didn't have a bunch of money behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And but I also somehow scrapped together enough to do what I did, and I have the advice that I have, and I try to give it to people, but they can take it or not. But we're there for them for 3 or 4 months to say,
Wow.
you do 2 covers, you do 2,000, you still only pay us a percentage. We're not demanding anything else, other than they do have to do brunch, and they do have to do some bar food, and that's it. Apart from that, they can do whatever they want.
Is the goal to be sustainable or profitable
For them,
for you?
we'll be sustainable and profitable through the bar.
Okay.
That's how chefs are sustainable and profitable
Sure.
nowadays. The restaurant part, the chef in residence part, it's really, it's a community piece.
Yeah.
It's a business piece. It's it's really just local support, and just getting. I feel like I've gone from the money economy to the experience economy to the transformation economy, and now I'm on sort of the attention economy. It's just like we're all just trying to get people's attention, and it could be for a blip, but I still think it's not. I think that's what Evelyn and other, the perception is I get people's attention.
Okay.
It will forever be anybody's, question of do we keep it, or what do we do with it when we have it? So Evelyn's getting some attention, and hopefully, and she's a great girl, hopefully she'll
Do something with it after.
Yeah, good on you there. That's a cool concept. Yeah, it's really, and you're helping people. It's and it should be a cool place to hang out. So, well, listen,
It is a cool place.
we're kind of up against it a little bit, Monica. But maybe 2 more questions. What would be your advice to some of the younger generation, or maybe someone just getting started out, not only in Houston but anywhere? What would be your advice, for the young person dipping their toe in the restaurant world to starting a new place?
Starting or stepping into the business?
Starting their own restaurant.
Lord.
Yeah.
Well, come and do a chef in residence, and realize all the mistakes you can make. I've done 10 restaurants. I've made every mistake in the book. I think one of the things I remember. A friend of mine in San Francisco, she's like, Monica, what if somebody gave you $2 million and said, do your thing, and then you wake up 6 years down the road going, why am I not making any money? It's like, well, because you're paying the $2 million back, and then you don't get the $2 million, and you're working your ass off, and you're like, where's the money? It's like there's never going to be any money. It's not about that. But I would say don't put the cart before the horse, and that's what I think I'm trying to do in particular with Evelyn. It's just like I have restaurant stuff from I can do 100 seats in a field. Don't spend your money. I always say on 3 things. 3 things that just can make you, make or break you in some ways. There are things that we have to consider when we open a restaurant. Air conditioning is a big a big thing. Parking's a big thing. I mean, those are the things that can make you or break you. Now, it's changed over the quarter of a century, with Uber and stuff, but now it's water. The minute it starts raining, nobody's going to come out. But there's really no reason to spend $2 million and I've spent it all. But you don't have to focus on the food and what you do. And I'm saying, fuck everybody who wants to judge your bathrooms or your light fixtures. Somebody told me about chandeliers with dust. I get it, but as a chef, you'd like to just do good food, and have people appreciate that rather than nitpick, everything else around it.
Well, the show is the recipe. So if you're home, if you're home and your refrigerator is full of food, what are you cooking?
Oh, I have my list because I have a refrigerator full of food, and I have this birthday bash tomorrow. I have Liberty Provisions ground beef from some recipe, some food is medicine thing. So I'm making picadillo. I'm gonna make biscuits, and I'm gonna make some gravy because I have some cream. I don't know. I got it. It's a boozy brunch tomorrow.
Yeah.
With good leftovers.
Well, good for you. Well, listen, Monica, I appreciate you so much
Thank
for coming.
you.
And by the way, tell everybody about the FundMe page and where people can find you and that kind of stuff.
Well, the GoFundMe is me on there. I've fallen down. I can't get a picture. They can find me on sparrowhouston.com. That's where you can see my what I'm doing now at the cook shop and all the schedule of my cooking classes and catering and stuff and pop-ups. There's FB and there's Instagram at Chef Monica Pope. And then tomorrow is this just open house cook shop, which I've just moved into my 103-year-old bungalow in the museum district, where I do my classes and events and stuff. And we're doing a little boozy brunch thing, and I've got some friends coming to sell their cool stuff. So,
awesome.
10 to 3.
Yeah.
Help me make biscuits.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for coming in the show. I had a whole page of notes. I never looked at them once, so I never even.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
No, it's awesome. I mean, it was really cool to listen to your stories and everything about. So, well, to all your listeners, thank you again for tuning in. I want to thank our sponsors again: Dunkin' Coffee, Escoffier School of Culinary Arts, American Culinary Federation, Texas Beef Council, and Aceway Incorporated. Thank you guys. Thank our listeners for helping us to get to number 18 this week on iTunes. And Phil Phoenix and Venus J. And Dick, thanks for coming in and being with us today. And a big thank you again to Monica Pope for sharing her stories and her history. So listeners, remember, you're special, you're great. Make an impact on someone's life today. See you next time.